I've never really done that before, as far as opening statement. Things are going well. Boys are practicing hard. Good to be back in pads. Any questions?
Perfect. That was a perfect opening statement. Let's go with Jay Drew, Mitch Harper, and Jared Lloyd.
Ilaisa, I'll start you off with an easy one, but kind of a two-parter. Back when you were hired by Kalani and you came on, what are some of the principles or philosophies or kind of cornerstones that you wanted to build this defense on? And then number two, do you feel like you're there yet? Have you you've stayed the course, haven't made a lot of changes? Do you feel like you've arrived?
It's an easy one, huh? Yeah, think back to when I first got here. Yeah, it's obviously you guys know before I came here, was on the offensive side of the ball, moved over to defense and coached the D line. So the big thing for me was just having a good D line and being able to play sound football. And so through the years, we've grown a lot, gotten a lot of the corners in that we felt like we wanted to play the type of defense that we wanted, and just continue to improve the D line and still continue to play sound football. And I think we're closer to where we want to be. Obviously, as a coach, you never feel like you're exactly where you want to be. There's always a need for another upcoming corner to join your room, and another DN to come in to show just flashes of just the ability to pass rush, and a D tackle that's disruptive. And right now with where we're at, we never really talk about backers, but that might be the most talented position that we have, is just with the backer spot. We got some corners that we like, and the D line right now is playing really stout.
Then just a quick follow-up. What is the most difficult position to recruit to in college football for a defense?
I think everyone's always looking for corners. Obviously it's probably similar to what the pay scale is for an NFL roster. You've got corners that you got a corner that's paid a lot of money. You've got a rush DN that's paid a lot of money, and you get a special backer that can lead the defense. I mean, that guy as well is a guy that's paid a lot of money, and so it's always hard to get kids that can play man coverage, and so there's always a need for recruiting corners. And I don't think that's specific to BYU. I mean, that's everywhere across the country, is everybody wants corners that can play, because that's where you give up the biggest plays, is just in the pass game. And then a rush end on, pass downs is always nice.
Ilaisa, how has the heightened expectations maybe from the national conversation, all the hot, lofty ranking, how has that impacted your personnel on the defensive side, maybe their preparation each and every week? Has it had any sort of impact from your vantage point?
I'm with all the stuff that's going on the outside, I'm sure our players know, but starting from the top with what Kalani's message is about staying humble and staying hungry, I think the boys have bought into that, and they've worked hard, and we do a lot of crossover work still with the offense, which gives us a lot of good on good looks, competitive looks. And so, I think the preparation and just the hunger has always been there just throughout the whole season, and it all starts with Kalani's message.
Wanted to ask you a recruiting question too. I know last week it was kind of an opportunity to go on the virtual recruiting trail for you guys. I know the 2021 class is limited in terms of numbers, but what are some positions of need on the defensive side for this upcoming class with about a month or so till signing day?
It's probably goes back to just Jay Drew's questions. It's you're always looking to take corners. You're always looking to take corners, and a D end. that's always going to be kind of the thing that we're looking for in every class. And then the numbers that we in the way that we allocate our scholarships. I mean, we've got 10 scholarships for corners. We only got 5 for safeties, and then we've basically got about 15 for D linemen. I think 11 for linebackers, and it's the way that the scholarships for us end up counting out is we recruit corners. We get, guys that can run and guys that can't play as much man-to-man, or just guys that are starting to develop and get a little bit bigger in the weight room, move to safety. And so that's been the philosophy for us the whole time, and we'll continue to recruit like that. But, with the numbers, never want to get hung up on saying we don't have a scholarship for this guy or this guy. Even though that's a reality, it's you never turn down a good, great player that you find, and try to make room for a guy that's going to make your defense better.
And just one more follow-up real quick. Do you feel like that's one of the reasons why you guys have been successful with this year's team? Because from 1 to 123, you guys have made a point of emphasis with scholarship and preferred walk-on players to get as much talent as you possibly can. Do you feel like that mentality has paid off to where you guys are having the success this year?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, throughout the years, in the first couple of years that we've gotten here, we've recruited a lot of the corners that we felt could play in the system, and force fed them early, where those guys were playing as freshmen and starting to see dividends, and just the way that those guys are playing now as older players. How many years ago you guys saw Chris Wilcox for the first time against Utah, when he was kind of forced into that action, and just got a lot of reps early, and through the years just became really, really good player, and the type of kid that we want to play with at corner. And same to be said about Isaiah Herron and some of these other guys that are developing. I mean, there's a lot of Keenan Ellis, and there's a lot of kids that have developed through the years that have gotten time early in their career that are starting to show dividends for us now.
Coachy, you've talked a lot about how the philosophy is to limit the big plays and therefore get teams off the field, not allow them to get big chunks. How do you feel like the team has done in stepping forward in that particular area this year?
I thought that it's been pretty good. I mean, through the years, I think biggest difference for us on defense is offenses change the way that they play when they're down, because our offense is so good, So the offenses that we face are a little bit more predictable and trying to catch up with our offense, and it really, really a lot easier for us on defense when teams are falling behind by 1-2 scores, and all of a sudden they completely change, because they know that if they're trying to nickel and dime us and drive their way, on a 15, 16-play drive just to get 3 points, they're not going to be able to keep up with the offense. And so it allows us to get more big plays, allows us to kind of get after the pass rush a little bit more, and create just some takeaways just through some poor decisions, and thrown into zones, or just getting sacks, fumbles, all that stuff. And so the offense for us has been the biggest difference in the way that we played. In previous years, when you're doing that, when you're holding people to long drives and they're coming away with 13, 16 points, but you're not scoring as many on offense, it's a little bit harder. And your philosophy's got to change on defense, where you got to pick up the aggression to try to get the ball back more for the offense. But with the way the offense is playing this year, I mean, it's been unbelievable for us. The philosophies kind of just sink in and to collaborate together the way that we're playing.
You did have a couple get behind you against Boise State. I know some of the 2s and 3s were in that moment. How do you address that, as far as, okay, we can't let that happen, even if you're a number 3 guy or whatever, because we might need you in the game, and we can't have those mistakes.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what you said is exactly right. We've got our depth, and the difference between a guy going down as well as a guy getting thrown out of a game for targeting or whatever. I mean, it's just the opportunities, or not the opportunities, but the situations where you could be on the field. I mean, you're one play away from playing, and so we can't look at anybody as a down the line guy, but just we got to get our depth to where it needs to be, in the drop off between a 1, a 2, and a 3 can't be as big as it was later in the game for us. Would have felt good about coming away with from the Boise game, holding them to another field goal, but it's just we end up giving up 2 big ones that didn't affect the game, but just in the way that we practice and the way that our philosophy is, it affected us in a negative way, and we got to fix that.
All right, let's take a question from Jacob Hatch and then Norma Gonzalez.
Yeah, Ilaisa, with you guys having so many games that it seemed to have been decided by early on in the second half, you've been able to play a lot of your 2s and 3s in those games, kind of building off what Jared just talked about. How beneficial has that been all year long to get that work for those guys in actual game situations?
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, that's really important. You know, we missing out on spring practice and having the opportunity to develop those guys. It's been huge to get them game reps, and you know, it's one thing to just be talking football and making corrections off of practice, but it's another thing when you're making corrections and refining a kid from game film. I mean, there's a lot of learning to be had, plus just being in the moment in a big game, being on the field. I mean, there's a lot of bullets that are flying that normally aren't, that kids have to get used to. You know, they call it fog of war. Some kids kind of have it, some kids don't, and it starts to dissipate the more you get used to bullets flying. And so that's really been priceless for us to have those kids play.
And then also, I wanted to just kind of get your obligatory, what do you see from North Alabama on film?
You know, they're certain. You know, you just kind of look at the matchup. You look at the game. You're like, oh, you know, we've got a really good offense, a really good defense. You're playing a team like this that's an FCS that hasn't won, and you throw on the film, and there's always, you know, teams, offenses are always innovative in the way they're trying to move the ball and create problems for you. And so this team's no different from any other team when it comes to just that. I mean, we've got to make sure that our schemes are sound, that we're not giving up anything cheap, and dominating up front like we have been, and as has been huge for us, and just kind of keeping things in front of us, but also being challenging in the way that we're playing our corners and you know, sending our blitz packages.
Hey, Coach, what was sort of y'all's focus for the defense throughout the bye week, and what are you really liking about your group right now?
Throughout the bye week, it was really just about getting them healthy, getting them back, giving them a mental break from the coaches, always being in their face, trying to coach them about stuff, and really staying strong in the weight room. And I thought that was a successful bye week for us. But then getting back is really focus has been getting back into the swing of things. I mean, we saw mistakes and, you know, certain things that you normally see when you start playing ball again. I mean, every skill when you're playing the game of football, even for when you're off for a week, you know, some of these skills start to perish. And so you got to bring these skills back and sharpen it back up. The timing's got to be better, and the way that things are played. You know, eyes start to drift from, you know, where they're supposed to be, and they start looking at the wrong things, and just reeling those things back in so that your technique is tight throughout the whole defense. And for us as coaches to be able to see that and make those adjustments and corrections has been huge for us in these first couple of practices.
All right, we'll take one last quick question from Mitch Harper.
Yeah, excuse me, for Ilaisa, for any players that maybe have been banged up the past few weeks, we kind of maybe err on the side of caution to bring those guys back this week to maybe have them ready for that game in December against San Diego State.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody specifically, you know, on the defense that you'd be referring to, but
George Udo?
But yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, George practiced today, and George, you know, flying around. I think he'll be fine. Yeah. Anybody else?
Zane Anderson.
Yeah, Zane is also practicing. A little bit limited, but we're trying to make sure that we can get him out there. I mean, if he doesn't play this game or at least practice this week, he's going to almost be 2 months removed from being in a game. And so it's just trying to keep him sharp and just trying to keep him practicing, even if we don't plan on playing him this week, is really been the big key for us.
Thanks, Ilaisa.
Is Tyler Batty close? Just he'd be in that group.
He practiced yesterday. I was a little bit hesitant, and so we kind of slowed him down today. He probably won't play this week, just out of caution, and just want to make sure that we bring him back. You know, the thing about differences in all the positions, especially for a D lineman, is you don't come back and start running around and look good. I mean, you got to come back and you're immediately 100% of the snaps that you play, you're taking on, you know, 600 pounds of force when you're taking on a double team, or you're taking on, you know, just another human being that's trying to push at you and twist you around and all that. And so getting him right, I think is going to take a little bit more time just because of that. And so we're just going to play a little bit safer with him.